Hello again, my friends. This should be a fun and interesting video for many of you. I know some of you are like me in that you have all kinds of people challenging you with trying to prove that the earth is flat. And I really think that we could overwhelm ourselves with trying to go through the proofs that people are offering us. I know someone sent one to one of my videos yesterday, and I downloaded it and began to look at it, and I just said, why am I wasting my time going through this? They had their own assumptions with regard to angles of shadows and things like that, and it would not be anything that I could go out and independently prove one way or another. So unless I spent just tons and tons of time, and we don't have all the time in the world just to satisfy someone's yearning to convince us that we live on a globe. So today I'm going to offer video Flat Earth Proofs number 2, Logic. We need to understand logic, and then we can understand that we live on a flat earth. Well, I quickly looked at some logical principles just to present them to you, just the most basic ones. The first one is called implication. An implication would be, for example, if P is true, then Q is true. And today we're going to deal with this implication. The implication is this: if the Earth is a globe, then the horizon descends from a starting point in any direction. And those of us who've been researching this now know that descension is measured as 8 inches times the number of miles squared. And that's how we can actually determine how far the horizon should descend from where we are when we're looking at something. Now, of course, it's true that the horizon would vary by the height at which you stand, but if you're standing close to the Earth itself, then this equation is very accurate. Now, there is a logical formula called the contrapositive to the implication. Contrapositive. It goes like this: if not Q, then not P. And these are considered to be equivalent statements. In other words, it would go like this: if the Earth is a globe, then the horizon descends from a starting point in any direction. That would be the implication. The contrapositive would go like this: if the horizon does not descend from the starting point, then the Earth is not a globe. Let me say that again. If the horizon does not descend from the starting point, then the Earth is not a globe. Now, I think many of you have now seen the videos that are online. There are many of them that use several videos that people have done that are very, very convincing. One of those videos is of a person who was watching a large cargo ship go out to sea. The cargo ship apparently went beyond the horizon, or down the horizon, as globalists would say. But then the person taking the video used a zoom lens and brought the ship back into view without any loss of what you saw of the ship, which was showing that you have a flat horizon. And he did that over a long period of time, out to quite a number of miles, and yet you never saw a descending horizon. Another one that most of us have seen is the video of Chicago from across Lake Michigan, of a distance of about 60 miles. This is really a famous one because you even had a weatherman show a picture of the Chicago skyline from across Lake Michigan and say that that was impossible if we lived on a globe. But this really wasn't what we were seeing. We were really seeing, I think he called it an inversion or something like that. Mr. Thrive and Survive has done an excellent video where he just debunks that. I think when you look at the picture, you can tell that that's not any type of mirage or inversion or anything else, but that you are actually looking at the Chicago skyline. And again, you do not see any descending in the horizon, even over this large distance of 40 to 60 miles. And there should be quite a great dissension by that time. There's others that we've seen out there too, but those two I think are the two of the most significant. Another one that comes to mind, though, a really excellent video showing views of islands way, way out to sea. I believe one of them was 120 miles away from the starting position, and yet you could still see the island without losing it because of going down below the horizon. I want to read something now to you. For those of you who would want to debunk this, just say, well, I didn't take that video. How do I know that that video is real? Obviously, we all have to look at the evidence that is available to us and then reach our own conclusion as to whether or not that's real or not. I think those videos I saw were actual videos that were true and were not manipulated, like the images, for example, that we see that NASA puts out. They were not manipulated like that. Now, I want to just show you this book by Eric Dubay. I really would recommend that all of you buy a copy of this book because it's written in a very simple style, and he quotes a lot of really good people in it, people that we need to know. One of the people that he quotes is Dr. Samuel Rowbotham. And I'm going to read what is on page 27 of Eric Dubay's book, which is taken right out of Rowbotham's book. And the book that is taken out of is called Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe. I also have purchased that book, and I would recommend that any of you purchase that too. You can get it, the Kindle edition, for 99 cents from Amazon, and then hard copy edition for around $20. Let me just read here. A boat with a flagstaff, the top of the flag 5 feet above the surface of the water, was directed to sail from a place called Welch's Dam, a well-known ferry passage, to another called Welney Bridge. These 2 points are 6 statute miles apart. The author, and that would have been Samuel Rowbotham, with a good telescope went into the water, and with the eye about 8 inches above the surface, observed the receding boat during the whole period required to sail to Welney Bridge. The flag and the boat were distinctly visible throughout the whole distance. There could be no mistake as to the distance passed over, as the man in charge of the boat had instructions to lift one of his oars to the top of the arch the moment he reached the bridge. The experiment commenced about 3 o'clock in the afternoon of a summer's day, and the sun was shining brightly and nearly behind or against the boat during the whole of its passage. Every necessary condition had been fulfilled, and the result was to the last degree definite and satisfactory. The conclusion was unavoidable, that the surface of the water for a length of 6 miles did not to any appreciable extent decline or curvate downwards for the line of sight. But if the earth is a globe, the surface of the 6 miles length of water would have been 6 feet higher in the center than at the 2 extremities. From this experiment, it follows that the surface of standing water is not convex, and therefore that the earth is not a globe. On the contrary, this simple experiment is all sufficient to prove that the surface of the water is parallel to the line of sight, and is therefore horizontal, and that the earth cannot be other than a plane. Very simple experiment, very simple result. The next page, page 28, I'll read again from Eric Dubay's book. In a second experiment, Dr. Rowbotham placed 7 flags along the edge of the water, each 1 mile distant from the next, with their tops positioned 5 feet above the surface. Near the last one, he also positioned a longer 8-foot staff bearing a 3-foot flag so that its bottom aligned precisely with the tops of the other flags. He then mounted a telescope at a height of 5 feet behind the first flag and took his observations. If the Earth was a globe of 25,000 miles, which is what we're taught, each successive flag would have to decline a definite and determined amount below the last. This is a matter of fact. That's true. The first and second flags simply establish the line of sight. The third flag should then fall 8 inches below the second, the fourth flag 32 inches below. Now he's using this equation of 8 inches times the number of miles squared. The fourth flag 32 inches below, the fifth 6 feet below, the sixth 10 feet 8 inches below, and the seventh flag should be a clear 16 feet 8 inches below the line of sight. Even if the Earth was a globe of 100,000 miles, in other words, 4 times the circumference of what they tell us ours is, an amount of easily measurable curvature should and would still be evident in this experiment. But the reality is not a single inch of curvature was detected, and the flags all lined up perfectly as consistent with a flat plane. Okay, now, it was this idea that the horizon does not go down, does not descend as it would have to in a globe, that convinced me that we live on a flat earth. Now, I'm going to read another excerpt from a book. I don't know if C.S. Lewis believed in a flat earth or not, but he wrote about a flat earth in this series. But I'm going to read from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Very interesting. Lucy has magically got into Narnia, and her brother Edmund did too, but her brother Edmund denies it, and Lucy is very distraught and upset, and her other 2 siblings think that she's going mad. So they tell the professor, who they're staying with, an older gentleman, and after they tell him the story, he asks, "How do you know that your sister's story is not true?" "Oh, but," began Susan, and then stopped. Anyone could see from the old man's face that he was perfectly serious. Then Susan pulled herself together and said, But Edmund said they had only been pretending." "That is a point," said the professor, "which certainly deserves consideration, very careful consideration. For instance, if you will excuse me for asking the question, does your experience lead you to regard your brother or your sister as the more reliable? I mean, which one is the more truthful?" "That's just the funny thing about it, sir," said Peter. "Up till now, I'd have said Lucy every time." "And what do you think, my dear?" said the professor, turning to Susan. Susan and Peter are the 2 oldest children. "Well," said Susan, "in general, I'd say the same as Peter, but this couldn't be true. The flat earth couldn't be true. All this about the wood and the fawn?" "That's more than I know," said the professor. "And a charge of lying against someone whom you've always found truthful is a very serious thing. A very serious thing indeed." "We were afraid it mightn't even be lying," said Susan. "We thought there might be something wrong with Lucy." "Madness, you mean?" said the professor quite coolly. "Oh, you can make your minds easy about that. One is only to look at her and talk to her to see that she is not mad." "But then," said Susan, and stopped. She'd never dreamed that a grown-up would talk like the professor and didn't know what to think. People would never dream that we would talk about a flat earth. They don't know what to think. "Logic," said the professor half to himself. "Why don't they teach logic in these schools?" "There are only 3 possibilities. Either your sister is telling lies, or she is mad. Or she is telling the truth. You know she doesn't tell lies, and it is obvious that she is not mad. For the moment, then, and unless any further evidence turns up, we must assume that she is telling the truth." Logic. Logic. Remember the implication. If the earth is a globe, then the horizon descends from a starting point in any direction. Everyone agrees to that. We all know that's true. That is a logical implication. You look at a globe, start at any point, begin to move away from that point, and you will descend. The contrapositive, therefore, is also true. The contrapositive is this: if the horizon does not descend from the starting point, and now all of us have seen many evidences that it does not descend from the starting point. The horizon does not descend from the starting point. If the horizon does not descend from the starting point, then the Earth is not a globe. Logic, my friends, logic.